Coming from Cincinnati, this is the Spin Lab.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Spin Lab. This is season one, episode 10. It's Masterpiece Water Polo time. Spin Lab is produced and recorded live by Mike Jones and Nick Helwig. It's supported by the Ohio Squirrels. It's never too old to get into the game. Go nuts. And also Marlins Water Polo. For love of game, there's Marlins Water Polo. This podcast is also all about Ohio water polo and how we fit in the national scene. It's a combination of what's going on in Ohio, Midwest, and the national level. Last week's recap, we had an amazing talk with Olympian Janai Kerr and the Cage Cap Goalkeepers founder Tom Ray, as we talked about how water polo fits in the current political climate involving race, and got to pepper those fantastic goalies with questions about playing their position, how to do a lob shot. It was a great conversation. And Nick, I want to give you a quick shout out. This is episode 10 for us. So we're rolling here really well in just the past couple months. So great work. We hope everyone is staying healthy and being responsible as we're seeing cases of COVID rising tonight. We're doing a special table discussion with regional masters programs from Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. So let's first introduce all the players and their clubs. Our first guest tonight is the Indy water polo team out of Indianapolis, Ed Parrish. Ed, why don't you introduce yourself and give a little bit about your club?
Hey, good evening. My name is Ed Parrish. I'm with Indy Water Polo. I've been playing water polo myself since 1991. The club, Indianapolis Water Polo, was established sometime prior to that. I'm going to say 88, around the Olympics and just after when Indianapolis hosted the Pan Am Games. Polo was pretty good in Indy till about 1995. Then it went underground. Lost some interest. People moved away. Resurfaced for about 2 years at a range of locations. Then it was really sporadic until about 7 years ago when a buddy of mine and I got together and we started to resurrect the whole thing. Now we're pretty active. We host 2 to 3 tournaments a year. We travel to 4, and we have a roster of, say, 45 guys, but 20 regulars. Mixed age groups. Our oldest is 65. He's a goalie. He can still get out of the water. Don't let that fool you.
That's great, Ed. Hey, welcome to the call. And I know you and I have been connecting a lot over the past, couple years, but also recently with the COVID environment. We appreciate all the guidance you've given us in the Cincinnati club. Heading north to Cleveland, Cassie David, welcome. Any insight about your club you want to provide?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Cassie David. I'm the president of the Cleveland Water Polo Club. The club has been around since 2006, founded by a couple players from OU. We have about, I would say, 45 to 50 registered players. But, as was mentioned previously, we have about 20 to 25 regulars. We practice 3 days a week, a mix of local high school. We practice at Cleveland State University's pool also. And during the summertime, we have the opportunity to go outside. So we practice 2 times a week outdoors during the summertime, which is, a pretty big deal for members to actually get outside and play some water polo. In terms of the club itself, I guess our youngest member, he's just graduated from high school, so we have an 18-year-old. And our oldest member, he's been around forever playing water polo. He's 65. So we run the gamut from 18 to 65 currently. It's a sport that, everyone can keep coming back to, as mentioned before. We love having new people join us. And, we try as much as possible to recruit around the area and different things. We try to have some high school clinics sometimes when we can get in. So, we're a pretty active club. We'll travel to tournaments about 5 or 6 times a year. So I would say every 2 months or so we try to get to the tournament, and we also host every spring the Lake Erie Classic, which we've been going on for about 10 years now. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. So a couple of things. I knew one of your founders. I still do. Kevin Ziegler. He's a good friend of mine. I played with him at OU. That's awesome. And then your 65-year-old goalie. I love Steve. Is Steve, right?
Yep, Steve.
Yes, great guy, and he was pretty good when I was at OU. He played for University of Akron in some capacity, and
Hmm.
I think he can still get up and grab those balls.
Yeah, he's still pretty feisty in the water, even at 65.
Yeah. All right, now turning back to the local club, the Ohio Squirrels, we have Johann Perera. Johann, any insight about the Squirrels?
Yeah, so this is Johann Perera. I actually started playing water polo in 1990, freshman year in college. The Squirrels, obviously, one of our hosts here, Mike Jones, was one of the original founders. Started basically in 2006 when he got out of college. Started that with Chris Mathers, who's still a member. They're one of the two original members still with our team. Probably say it officially started in 2007. It's nice having a club masters team here in Cincinnati, the only masters team in this area. Then you have to go up to Columbus and then up to Cleveland. Obviously, we get the opportunity to play with some local college club teams and then some high school teams. And then we travel quite often, about 4 times a year to different tournaments. And we usually host 2 home tournaments. But yeah, it's a great team, great club, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you guys hosted the Nutty back in February, and Cassie, isn't your Erie Classic in April-ish? Is that right?
Yeah, it's generally the second weekend in April.
Yeah, yes. So I assume that was canceled.
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
But I remember going up to that tournament a lot, both as an official and then also as a player. The scene up there is phenomenal. And your teams, you pull from all over the country. It's great.
Yeah. We get pretty good participation. I would say we generally get between maybe 10 at the lower end, and one year we had 16 teams, so we get a lot of good participation in that tournament every year.
Nice.
Look forward to hosting it again next year. Well, once we're out of this COVID thing, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep our fingers crossed. We need to. I'm happy that we're playing, but we need to get back in the water more, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
All right, so Ed, let's turn to you. So let's talk about practice structure. So you have players that have never played before ever, and then you have players that are recent college players, and then you have players that are maybe they're, you mentioned your older goalie, so their drills are a little bit different. How do you structure a typical practice in
All right, so Thursdays and Saturdays are our practice times, or practice dates. Thursdays are an hour, 7 to 8 p.m., and Saturdays 9 to 10:30 a.m. In the summer, we're outside, so we typically go from Memorial Day until when the chlorine runs out in September. Last year, we were still outside until the second week of October, so we're going to stay out as long as we can.
Yeah.
Relative to structure, Thursdays are traditionally set up for conditioning and any type of specific position play, whole set, field, goalie. We'll focus on just one specific thing and make it the practice. So if we just break down that first hour, or the only hour on Thursday, 15 minutes of swimming and treading, something of that nature. Then we'll go into some type of tread drill with a weight or a resistance from another player. And then the last 30 minutes, you focus on that specific position. So, for example, last Thursday, we focused on triangles. And given the fact that, what I call sugar-free water polo, meaning we're not non-contact, there's a lot more swimming, less, stationary play, more crisp, dry passes, which is nice to see. And we always try to I use the corners only on those triangle drills. On Saturdays, it's 75 minutes of scrimmage, straight up. Everyone wants to get in and play. So we warm up a bit, do some shooting drills or focus on some specific thing that was a weakness the week before, and then we'll jump into straight up scrimmage. We usually have 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, and someone's out being ref. Sometimes we'll intentionally call a kick out or stop play and say, what's going on here? Why are you moving to the left or to the right? Show some options.
Very nice. Seems very strategic and tactical with some of the, if you looked at something last week, let's, continue to focus on this week, and you kind of and going to every one of your sessions. That's great. Johann, can you walk us through kind of a Squirrels practice?
Sure. So our typical practices before COVID, we would get in, do a little warm up. That was basically on your own, and it was probably limited swimming. With COVID now, we're doing organized swim sets in the beginning of the practice, which is good and needed and going really well. Probably getting around close to 1,500 on the swim sets. Then we go into some passing, just warming up our arms, doing some passing drills, and then we'll switch that up and do some different types of passing drills. Then we'll go into some shooting drills, UCLA, four corners, and then we'll do some walk through some plays. We'll do either some drives, practice on some picks, or run through some 6-on-5. And then after that, we prior to COVID, we would go into scrimmage. Obviously, right now we're a little limited on that, but we are still doing some nice perimeter play, doing some 6-on-5 type of drills without the defense and just having the defense on the inside. But, we all play masters so we can scrimmage. So that's the best part of it. And we're getting there as we work through what we're doing now. But that's typical of our practice: swim, passing, shooting drills, doing some walking through some different types of picks and 6-on-5s, and then a scrimmage.
Very nice. Yeah, that scrimmage factor is a huge draw for any Masters player, well, before or even after, or during COVID. The mileage or the yardage in the swimming is probably helpful. Hopefully that continues even beyond COVID, because, it's a great workout getting 1,000, 1,500 yards in. And it's a very good use of time too, instead of just throwing the ball back and forth. Like, you're actually able to do sets. That's great. Cassie, up north at the lake, walk us through a practice session.
Yeah, okay. Well, so we practice 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and then Sunday morning. And we mostly focus on skills development on that Tuesday night. So as mentioned before, we generally would have players warm up by themselves, on their own, doing swimming, stuff like that, before we get together with some passing drills, similar to everybody else. Then we'll move into shooting drills. And on Tuesday nights, as we get closer and closer to the tournament, so if we're, tournament is a few weeks away, we start tailoring our practice towards specific skills that we want to make sure that we're ready for the tournament. So again, we'll work on some drives and picks. We do a great deal of transitioning too. So, up and down the pool, transitioning after turnovers, to make sure that, our goalie has that outlet and make sure we're moving the ball. And then we also would isolate in terms of the different position play. So, working the ball around, getting into the hole, that kind of thing, to make sure that the team is communicating, which of course is the most important part. So one of the most important things during tournament play. And we also focus a lot on 6-on-5. So we start off the drill a lot of times without defenders, just working the ball around, getting players into position around the perimeter. Then we'll introduce defenders, and then we'll go from there. So that's normally our Tuesday nights. And as you mentioned, being able to scrimmage is a big part of it. So Thursdays, which are a little shorter practice, and Sundays, we generally focus on scrimmaging in those days. On those days. Of course, with COVID, we're probably going to transition more into, organized swim sets kind of thing, and more like passing and shooting type drills until, we kind of reassess and see what the situation might be moving forward.
Yeah, Johann came out with some news a couple weeks ago. I think it was like 10 days ago, that high school athletes can start making contact with each other.
Yep.
Oh, and then we saw some things coming down from a couple athletic directors with guidelines that they can do it within the competition of the sport, within the practice. So you can't like high five afterwards. And like if you have to tackle somebody in football, you're allowed. I know teams are still being cautious of that, even with that wording, because it could still create a spike. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully things start revealing some positive news. One question for you, Cassie. You talked about preparation right before a tournament. If you're traveling to a tournament, like say this week, maybe next weekend, and you want to prepare for it. If you know the team's going in, how strategic do you get? Like if you're playing Ohio State, who's usually a very fast team, physical team, like try to act out that team, or do you just try to figure out, let's work on our speed, let's work on our transitions? How do you do that?
Yeah, so in general, yeah, so as you mentioned, we'll know any teams that may be at the tournament. For a really fast team, we'll transition into more swim set type work, trying to get everyone into some type of better shape. It's Masters players. Sometimes people are resistant to swim sets and stuff like that. But we also work a lot on for certain tournaments, just getting like pressure passing, and on defense, making sure we're in position, pressing out, that kind of thing. So we kind of start to zero in on certain plays or situations that we would expect. Because some tournaments you go to is a little more physical teams than others. That's where we focus in more on the pressure passing, being more aware during those transitions. So once the ball turns over, making sure we're in position to defend and that kind of thing. And other tournaments, we may focus more so on just the passing and shooting kind of thing. So it does depend on the tournament we're going to and the teams that we'll meet in terms of how we kind of prep for tournaments.
Okay, great. So we live in a world of crazy social media. There's like 15 different outlets to be able to promote anything, a company, yourself, LinkedIn. I mean, it's all out there. So start with you, Johann. What's your social media presence with the Squirrels? Do you even have one? How does it work? And things like that.
Yeah, so we actually have a social media director on part of our team, our staff, and we actually do have a Facebook presence. We are on Twitter. We're actually able to put some ads out on Facebook, and we actually get some pretty good back end. We picked up some members through Facebook. We also have a big presence with the local high schools. So as far as recruiting goes, we get a lot of the high school kids as they go into college or get out of college that pick up and join our club, and a lot of them train with us as well. A lot of word of mouth goes a long way as well. But we do have a big presence on Facebook, and that's probably, as far as social media goes, probably our biggest opportunity and advantage that we have.
Yeah, I see the Squirrels every now and then will scrimmage like Sycamore or St. X or something like that. That's got to be a huge pipeline down the road that they can see that there are older people playing. Maybe I can play when I get out of college, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. We plant the seed early, and the high school kids like training with us. They gain a lot of experience and skills and get stronger, and then that helps them when they go into college with club teams, and then when they come out, hey, we're the only thing in town. And I mean, it's nice to get that, get the younger kids in and get that, just keep growing the team and getting the younger ones in there while some of us older ones stick around as well.
Yeah, that's right. Ed, turning over to you, what's your social media presence like in a city that doesn't have very little high school water polo, I believe? How do you keep members coming in, and what's your...
Yeah, so you're right. High school water polo is not a sport in Indiana. When I was trying to find pool time, all the high school coaches said, do not show up with a ball because my guys will not want to play, which is fine. Hamilton County, where we live, is a hotbed for swimming, so pool time is a premium. So it's difficult to get anyone in unless people know about it or they're at swim practice at Forest Park. Right now it's set up 50 meters, 27, 25-yard lanes. So inside those 27 lanes, these kids are seeing us play polo in the diving well, and they're like, oh, that's awesome. But relative to social media, we have a Facebook account, which is our primary driver. Secondary is Twitter, not so active there. But given the influx of businesses and the influx of college graduates with new businesses and whatnot, there are certain areas of the city that we have postings, literally physical flyers inside coffee shops and little dives, and they'll copy the information, get the QR code or whatever, and then they learn about us. So Each year we usually get 5 to 6 out of that from a draw standpoint. 2 or 3 will stay, depending on whether or not they're transient, they're going to be leaving, or if they just, they wanted to check it out. Ironically, that whole flyer deal inside coffee shops tends to generate more information, tends to generate more traffic than just Facebook or a Google search, which is surprising to me. The last guy that came in only did Google, and he saw us on a Reddit page, which works out fine. The past 2 people were literally going into Starbucks in this area called Broad Ripple or thereabouts, and they saw Indianapolis Water Polo banner, and hey, they called the number, and now they're on the team.
That's awesome. Yeah, that old school format of posting it in coffee shops, that sounds like a great idea, especially since that's probably has high traffic, and you pick up some of these people that you would have never thought you could get. That's awesome.
Yep, it works out fine.
So we are in COVID. I'm not going to call it a nightmare. Yeah, I will. We can't play water polo as much as we want. The pool access is very low. You have to have guidelines. You have to have all these rules set up, waivers and things like that. Cassie, I'll start off with you up in Cleveland. Have you returned to the pool yet? Any guidelines that you've started implementing?
So we are planning to return actually this coming Sunday. So the 5th of July, we'll be returning to Lakewood High School. That's one of our locations. And so, as you mentioned before, the governor is starting to allow contact sports to happen again. But we are taking a more cautious approach. So we will be returning using both the facility-specific type rules, but we are designing a waiver kind of thing. And it's both a waiver, but it's more informational too, to express our team what would be the expected, I guess, behaviors or practices during this period. Of course, beginning with if you're feeling sick or have any symptoms, don't show up kind of thing. But also just respecting, everyone's personal space on the pool deck, at the locations, for instance, the showers and stuff like that won't be open. So people aren't going to be congregating in the showers after practice, which I know a lot of people are going to be upset about, because that's, as you all know, another big part of after practice activity, just, hanging out in the locker rooms and, before going home. But so it's different practices like that will be changing moving forward for us. And right now, our biggest activity basically would be sharing that with the team and making sure that everyone's on the same page moving forward with how practices would change or how expected behavior would change while in the pool and on the pool deck.
That's great. Congratulations on being able to touch water this coming Sunday. I know Columbus is having issues. A lot of their swim teams have taken up the pool time, but the water polo programs haven't really gotten in at all. All their stuff has been dry land workouts, no water whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're pretty lucky for that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So heading west a little bit, Ed, with Indy, you guys have been in the water for a little bit. Talk about your protocol, guidelines, precautions you're taking, anything you want to give us?
Yeah, we have the standard battery forms as well for liability perspective. We had one for our club, one for the pool that we work with, and then we are requiring everyone to join American Water Polo as part of the registration exercise. I would say in the past, I've been personally kind of lax on the American Water Polo. If they get to it over a certain amount of time, that was fine. Now it's a little bit more rigid. From a people traffic standpoint, the park established a lot of safety guidelines, and we're following their rule. You have to enter and exit a certain way, so it's one-way traffic. Again, they have this complex that has 27 lanes, and we have every team in Hamilton County showing up there to practice from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night. So we were sharing that pool with them during the hours before the public could show up. And then when the public shows up, there's a different type of protocol they have to follow relative to general capacity. But for the water polo team, we are there when there's not many people there. Thursdays, it's after hours, they're shut down. It's during their master swim club's Thirsty Thursday. So sometimes, there might be an opportunity to grab a beer and go afterwards, but there's no social engagement as there was in the past. And then on Saturdays, we're there when 2 or 3 of the swim teams are there, and there's significant physical separation between the two clubs. The locker rooms, ironically, are being refinished, so there is no locker room access. You have to just show up with your suit under your shorts and then, dry off and head out. So there's no locker room access. And then we're doing some level of contact tracing to make sure we know who's been where, and I confirm with people their I guess you could call it their physical status relative to how they're feeling, who they've been exposed to the past 3 days, how they felt the past 5 days, and whether or not they have a fever. We don't have a thermometer on hand, but the park is installing a vision system that's going to detect heat, whether or not you have a temperature, in about 2 weeks. So we're going to leverage that as soon as possible, and that's going to be another control we have in place. Relative to just polo, like I said earlier, it's sugar-free. We're not doing any type of contact in the water. Our governor is supposed to open up physical contact for youth athletic teams, high school athletic teams this Friday. So assuming that goes well, we're going full live on 4th of July. If not, we might start doing it on Thursday. And, that's going to be a nice milestone for us. Relative to what's going to happen for the high school, I don't know that yet. I'm still trying to get the understanding of how other clubs are going to be able to participate in the high school, be it basketball, indoor lacrosse, stuff like that. There is an option for masks in the pool. The Cap 7 mask made out of swimsuit material, fabulous. You can play with that thing on, contrary to popular belief. So if that's a concern, I recommend using that over a cotton mask if you haven't tried it yet. Because we do have a couple people that are honestly kind of concerned. So I recommended it, and they haven't employed it yet, but they're considering it now.
Yeah, not every player is going to be the same plane. Some players are going to be more concerned. Some players are like, let's do it. Let's do everything. I don't believe in this thing. So you kind of have to wean yourself towards or push yourself towards the people that are concerned and make that your foundation to everything. I have a couple Cap 7 masks. They are great. They are comfortable. I think 12 masks in my house now. So those are 2 of them. One's Army fatigue and the other one's pink, and I'm wearing the pink one a heck of a lot more. So it's great. So, all right, Johann, local, the Squirrels, what kind of protocol have they set up? Anything?
Yeah, so the Squirrels, we've been playing now for about 2 weeks or just a little bit more. And Cassie, if you need any help with you getting started, obviously we've gone through and Mike's done a lot of work on this, but the guidelines and waivers, we've already done the work. We have them written up. More than willing to share those with you if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. But yeah, for us, basically we have separation, which works out well. We practice on Sundays and Wednesdays, so we start at the Y on Sundays before any of the members are there, so there's no concern of running into other people. And then on Wednesdays we practice at the high school, and the high school team gets done at 8 o'clock. We don't start till 8:30, so we don't run into anyone there either. We do have our team come in about 15 minutes early, so we do the temperature checks, and then again, all the making sure if you're not feeling well, you don't come in, that whole spiel. I mean, that's all in our guidelines, but we make sure we adhere to that and limit our what we touch. Is when we leave at the end of the day, we sanitize any areas we've been in and spray it down. But yeah, so far it's gone well. We started pretty conservative. We still are, even though there's a opportunity for contact, we're still respecting other people's feelings and how it is. But today we did our perimeter passing. We started to mix in a couple drives or picks, not with a lot of contact, but definitely not pressing, but a loose press, and it's going really well. The transition after a couple weeks, it's going well, and I think everyone's feeling comfortable in what we're doing. And obviously, to go through the Y and through the high school, we had to submit a plan to them for them to approve, and they were comfortable with what we gave them.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's one of the things you said, Johann, was important is sharing with other clubs. And I've heard it all over the country that people are passing around how they're doing things, how they're running drills. And I think it's beneficial to everyone just to lean on each other a little bit, even if it's the smallest thing. So, like entering a pool area, what are the questions you ask the individual players? If you do a thermometer check, the waiver is important. A waiver, I think, sets a pretty good, strict foundation that we're serious about this, as well as the guidelines. And so you're not getting people that are coming in and saying, well, I don't believe in this, but no, they've signed a waiver. And so that means they're basically saying, I'm committed to the process, and I want to do what's right. And I don't want to, hurt my players. I'm here to, just exercise and be with the team. So that's great. Seems like all three of you have some good momentum going within your pools, while most of the rest of the country is probably not opening up as quickly within water polo, especially states that have seen spikes. And I've seen a little bit of California starting to open up again, or open up, but not to the extent of what we're doing in Ohio and Indianapolis. That's great. So we're going to close it off here, but I have one last ask from each of you. And Cassie, I'll start with you first. So talk about if somebody wants to come try water polo, that's an adult, that's at that master's level, what advice, if they've never played before, what advice would you give them?
Well, in general, with new players, I mean, we encourage them. Well, for us, we have about like a 1 week free type deal where you can come play for 3 days during your first week to kind of get an idea of what it's like, without having to pay, or without having to register or anything like that. But we also point them to different resources too. So, you can find almost everything online. So we recommend them, going online. USA Water Polo has pretty good like video series and that kind of thing, just to kind of acclimate themselves with the game a little more. So those are things we let them come to show up to practice for a week. But during that period, we also encourage them to use, some online resources to kind of get more familiar with the sport. And we also, because one of the first things that, new players who've never played before when it comes to talks about treading and that kind of thing. So we also make ourselves available to help with that. So every time a new player comes, if they haven't played before, generally one of the exec members or one of the more experienced players would kind of go with them to a corner of the pool, at least help them with treading before introducing them into the rest of the game. So, that's the general route that we normally use with new players.
Okay. Ed, when you have a new player come into the Indy Masters program, what kind of advice do you give them if they're interested, and then any kind of show and tell when they get there?
Yeah, so most time when they show up, the first thing I tell them is don't limit yourself by what you could do in the past. Don't say, well, in high school I did this, or in college I did this. It's all about what you can do right now. So if you're showing up and you have swimming experience, or you have basketball experience, you have soccer experience, or you have hockey experience, we've seen all those people show up, and they get in the tank, and maybe their swimming is not so good. All right, but we show them that the offense is the same, the mentality is the same, how you move the ball is the same, how you defend someone is the same. So if you're ever in some type of team sports, team area, or any type of team dynamic, you can play this game. Now, there's a little bit of learning involved. Obviously, you're gonna have to swim, you're gonna have to tread, you're gonna have to be able to hold your own. So there's a gentleman named Jeremy Hutchins. He really takes care of all of our new athlete orientation, if you want to call it that. So he'll pull them aside, literally every practice, a good 15, 20, 30 minutes, and focus on a specific fundamental. And then throughout that practice, depending on how the practice is structured, he'll go back to them and, reinforce it, be it how you catch, how you pass, the type of shot you take, where you're located in the water, balance, so on and so forth. So we have an individual that really helps those people when they come on board to give them that one-on-one attention. We haven't had to do anything really beyond that. We have had some open clinics where we're in between swim seasons from high school into the standard USA swimming. And some athletes show up for that, and that's a little bit more structured. We try to cover a lot of things in a 3-hour period. But for new people coming on board, we try to give them one-on-one attention and reinforce the fact that anyone can play this game. It's just a matter of what kind of condition you're in right now, and then how do we take you to that next level.
Very, very nice. So that's awesome that you have a specific player dedicated to those new people when they join. Jeremy sounds like a great guy, so that's awesome. Johann, last but not least, walk us through new advice for any new player that wants to join the Squirrels or try out water polo.
All right. Well, just not to scare any new players off, obviously we have probably 10 plus players on our team that are either coaches or had been referees. So there's a great deal of experience. And so, to help people out if they're starting, never played before. So, and you can take it at your own pace. So the help's there. We're patient, more than willing. We encourage people to come out. But if you're asking for the one piece of advice I would give is if you're interested in doing it, I would probably recommend that you get in the pool and swim for a couple of weeks before you come to practice, just because it'll make a big difference on your experience that you have. If you haven't swam and you jump right in and you want to start playing and treading and swimming back and forth and there's short bursts and sprints, the experience may not be as good as if you spent a couple weeks before, got in a little swimming shape and then showed up. So that would be my piece of advice.
Really good. So, gentlemen, I appreciate this. We went a little longer than we planned, but I think it was really, really well-rounded, and I appreciate all of your time. Please, let's continue to stay connected. We may have you back on later this year when, if we're in the middle of COVID still or even after COVID to see how things are going with your plans and how, maybe recruiting's going or how your practice structures are going and things like that. If it's okay with you, I'd like to, when we broadcast this post or this podcast, to broadcast your Twitter handles as well. I just found them all, and to put that out there as well. So if that's okay, we're going to put that in the link as well when we publish this, so people know where to go to find out more information and potentially learn more about you and join your club down the road.
Hey, one request though. I mean, if you're going to put contact info, can you put my Instagram in there as well? I generally get a lot of feedback there if that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. This is your Indy Polo Instagram or your personal one?
It's my personal. We don't have one that's set up that way, but if they want to know specifics, I can usually filter it.
Sure. Yeah. We'll see if we'll figure out a way to get that in there too. That's not an issue. So thank you, all of you. I'm going to
Thanks, Mike.
move
Thanks,
you for the
Mike.
call. And we appreciate it. Cassie, Johann, and Ed. Appreciate it, man.
All right.
All right. Thanks. See you. Bye.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Good evening.
All right. So that is the end of our call. I'd like to go ahead and thank of course, the guests and kind of give you a preview of our upcoming episodes. So as we get closer to fall season, we'll start profiling players, teams, and coaches as we begin breaking down the game and the team from the States. So looking into the high school season. If you have topics or shout outs or where you were playing in college or people you want to interview, contact us at cincywaterpolo@gmail.com or on Twitter and Instagram at cincywaterpolo. Spin Lob is produced and recorded live by Mike Jones and Nick Helwig. It's supported by the Ohio Squirrels Water Polo Club. You're never too old to get in the game. Go nuts. And also by Marlins Water Polo. For the love of the game, there's Marlins Water Polo. Our theme music is produced by Jason Shaw, audio2x.com. See you next time on the Spin Lob.